Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 293 of A Yank of the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels, coming from Sandusky, Ohio, and I am thrilled that you're with me. I'm going to be joined in just a moment by Ben Reeve from the Hoops Show, and we're going to be talking all things Geelong Cats and kind of doing what I've kind of described as a post-mortem. And well, as you can see, if you're first time checking out the show, I am a cat supporter, so I'm a little disappointed by the way the season went. Not terribly surprised though, the way they played quite, throughout much of the year. But really fun talking with Ben, who does a fantastic job on his show. Um, I am going to pause my club of the episodes for the time being because we're kind of in the off season for most of the country of Australia. I do want to congratulate all of the clubs that participated in the USAFL Nationals here over the last weekend here in the U.S., down in the state of Florida. Looked like it was a rousing success. I did see that Mason Cox, the premiership player from the Magpies, did make the trek there. So good on you, sir, for heading over there to show your support for the athletes here in North America. You are a great resource for them. And so glad that you were able to make that trip. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you do enjoy my podcast and you enjoy the YouTube channel as well, I do hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll share it with friends of yours as well. I'm actually recording the intro and the outro the day of the final opportunities for the trade period. So this is about a week and a half, 2 weeks after I've done this interview with Ben. So for continuity's sake, I had to make sure I put the correct shirt back on. So you didn't see me wearing a different shirt and swapping clothes mid-direction or mid-discussion there. So, but again, if you enjoy the show, I do hope you'll share it. If you really enjoy it, I hope you'll consider heading over to my website, ayankonthefooty.com, getting on the mailing list, subscribing over there. If you want to help out the show, you can certainly do that with the Buy Me a Coffee button, or you could check out my store page over on Redbubble as well. I've got quite a few things there that are available. If you want to leave a review, you want to leave a great 5-star review, I do have a handful of these wonderful Yank of the Footy stickers that I would like to get in the mail to people. So leave me a review and then shoot me an email at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com. Let me know that you left that review for me so I can share it and show some of the street cred that I'm hopefully earning from some of you that are checking out the show. And I'll get that sticker out to you as soon as possible. So let's go ahead and jump into my chat with Ben Reeve. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am absolutely thrilled to be joined by my guest for this episode. This is the first of the series of, I guess postmortems is not the right term or the best term to use, but it's kind of, looking at the clubs that did not make the 8 in terms of what went wrong, what went right, and what needs to change. I'm joined by Ben Reeve from the Hoops Show on YouTube, and they also do, along with his partner, Paul James, interviews on Behind the Play as well. I know they just had a coup of an interview on there just a few days ago, which we definitely want to be addressing as well. So, Ben, how are you doing on this morning, sir?
Mate, I'm loving it today. It's funny. It's a Wednesday morning for me. It's a little rainy outside, but I'm really enjoying today. I'm up and about for this interview. I've been looking forward to having a chat with you for the longest time. And I love having a chat with a fellow Geelong supporter. So I'm up and about and ready to go.
Yes, and
thank you for having me on.
You absolutely, and I'm sporting as much Geelong stuff as well. I guess I could put on my winter hat here because it hasn't started to cool down yet, but it's coming soon. We were up around 25 today, so it was a nice toasty day here for the fall. But yeah, it's coming. And we'll be down to where it's about -5, -6 here in the not too distant future.
I thank you. I must say too, you're looking fantastic actually. So apart from not just the Geelong clothing that you're wearing,
well,
yes,
I've
been following your journey and you're looking tip top.
I appreciate that. I've lost like 167 pounds, which is like 77 kilos, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. I've kind of plateaued a little bit because I've rediscovered popcorn. Nothing on it, but I've found it to be a very easy snack, and I'm realizing that I've kind of leveled out for a while, and I'm just about done with the popcorn that I have in the house. So once that's gone, I'm not buying any more of it. But it's yeah, and I mean I was doing a great deal of walking this summer because I worked at the local amusement park this summer and was walking on average for the 2 months that I was out of school. I was walking about 7.5 miles every day with that job, and even when I was off. So I was getting a lot of steps in, and I need to get back into that because school year's back started again. And I work as an announcer, and I've got 2 different organizations at school that I'm in charge of. So keeps me really busy at the beginning of the year. But enough about that, because I'm not back there till tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. So we're here to talk about the Cats and whether or not this was a premiership hangover, whether or not, Father Time caught up to us, or what the heck happened, or whether, we decided to go ahead and, since we have a stadium that is basically an acronym, we decided to change it to the MASH stadium and kind of have it like a MASH unit this year, because we certainly had our share of injuries. So I did enjoy your season ending wrap-up show from the back on the 3rd of September. And if you're a Cat supporter and you've not watched it, definitely check out the Hoop Show on YouTube. Very detailed, very well done. You guys do a fantastic job with it.
We really look forward to the end of season review episodes, but I must say we much more look forward to it when we win a grand final.
Oh yeah.
But I guess regardless, you win or you lose, it's very it's good or bad. There's lots to pull apart either way. So, but no, seriously, every year it comes around, I love looking forward to it, and I enjoy looking forward to the season preview video, which we probably put out around just before the season comes out as well. So I'm actually starting to put the notes together for that already, funnily enough, with the draft coming up soon and the trade period about to start. But no, the season review videos, I think, thank you for that, much appreciated. But we really, really enjoy pulling it apart, understanding what went wrong, celebrating the good times, understanding that not everything's fantastic in an AFL season, but that's footy. That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
That's why they're so great to win and actually climb the mountain. You go through all the pain, and we're this year a little bit different because we're still on the high, I suppose, coming down that mountain. And you don't win it 2 years in a row. You can live with that, I suppose. It'll be a little bit harder next year, I think. We'll expect to be improving. Well, some of us will be. Some of us will maybe saying we're going down again, but we might come to that as we talk.
And I'm wondering, and you will know this much better than I will for sure, but are Collingwood supporters going to be insufferable?
Right. They're out of control. A good friend of the channel, Swoop Luke, is a Collingwood YouTuber.
Right.
He's very big on the socials as well. He's having a great time, and I'm very happy for him. But oh my goodness me, it hasn't stopped. It's been all over the channel, the TV channels in Victoria, and all the streaming services. They're all obsessed with Collingwood for some reason, and every chance they get to talk about Collingwood, they do. So even when you're not paying attention to the socials, you're still hearing all about Collingwood, and it's already driving me nuts. It's the same with any team that's not Geelong wins. That I'm happy for them to start with, and then eventually I'm like, okay, you've won it, go away. Let's talk about Geelong a bit.
And just, it was, and I have to say, watching the grand final and, and hearing the story, that Craig McRae tells, about his, and I didn't watch any of the pregame stuff. I didn't see Kiss perform. I saw a little footage of it after the fact, but, him sharing that his wife had given birth to a daughter that morning and that sort of thing. It's just, I'll be honest, I'm a 60-year-old man, but I'm sitting there watching this, blubbering like an old fool, like, oh, I mean, it was just such a neat story. And again, Mason Cox winning a premiership, and he's been so maligned for so long, and he's worked hard to become as good a player as he is right now. Is he the best ruck in the game? No, of course he's not. But is he the best American ruck that this game has seen? Absolutely he is. And he did a decent job this game, and he should hold his head up high, even though it is much higher than everybody else's to begin with, he should definitely hold his head up high because he played as well as he did. So I applaud him. I think that's great for the game, and hopefully the league, and it's going to hopefully possibly lead to more Pie supporters. Hopefully the league capitalizes on that next year by just promoting the heck out of the premiership player who's from the US if they decide to actually promote the game here, which they don't do a great job of doing. And that's it for another day. But bottom line, getting to the Cats, the nitty-gritty here. What the heck went wrong this year? Was it age?
I think for the most part, yes. I think it's always a factor of things when a team goes from winning a premiership to falling off the ledge, so to speak. But I think we were the stars aligned in 2022. I think we can all acknowledge that things just went really well for 3 or 4 months there, and it culminated on the final day in September when we won the grand final.
Right.
It was fantastic, and maybe that tapered over. Not I wouldn't take back, but maybe we were a little bit blind to the fact that it was going to be. That was just a perfect situation. As I said, stars aligned. If it didn't happen again, if those stars were just a little bit out, possibly would look very different the following year with all the players a year older and new faces coming in that's familiar with the system, that's going to take time, and then just you throw in just a little bit of a drop off players, the hospital wars that became GMHBA Stadium at one stage, a whole range of different factors, but I think for the most part it became just that 1 or 2% drop off, some of that sort of senior group combined with injuries, with the natural improvement of the rest of the competition. I did rate Collingwood very much. We did play them in round 1. Funnily enough, they went on to win the premiership. But at the time, a lot of the joking around socials and banter with Collingwood supporters in Victoria and Australia was you just smart premiers. It doesn't mean anything. Little did we know that they would actually become the team that they were. I thought it was a fantastic performance, Collingwood in round 1, but I still thought, okay, Geelong went okay. We were in the game.
Right.
I think we had 16 goals free at one point. We were travelling fine. It's just that Collingwood just seemed to have the legs on us. And okay, we just won a grand final. The players are still coming back from a limited pre-season. A couple of players are still injured. We'll be fine. But then the season just evolved and it just became a bit more apparent, especially around the halfway mark, that things weren't going to be going as well as we sort of hoped. We were trying to convince ourselves otherwise, but ultimately, I think we just sort of hit that sort of age where it just got a little bit too hard, and then you combine that with the new players coming in.
And
it's not that easy to.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's winning premierships isn't easy.
No,
it takes everything has to go right, and more than one thing went wrong.
That's true. Yeah, you look at and I would argue that perhaps the biggest thing that went wrong this year, I would say, might be Cam Guthrie's toe. Maybe the biggest thing that happened to this club this year, because there was just such the midfield seemed to be so disjointed this year that they never got any real continuity. And there's some talent there, and I think in a couple of years, I think that's going to be a very good midfield. But they just really scuffled, and I think they had high expectations this year for Jai Clark being able to come in as a first-year player and helping out. As you guys mentioned on your end of the year show, he lasted all of 1 quarter before he was hurt and was done for the year as well. And I look at the glass as being maybe a quarter filled, but filling right now because of that. Because and are you at all worried about the club suffering the same fate that the Eagles are going through right now? Do you think that the club would allow that sort of thing to happen?
Not in a million years. So I'm not. That's there's 2 extremes. One is the West Coast, and the other is that Geelong comes back again in 2024, and we're forced, and we're competing at the very pointy end of the season. I don't think we're going to go down the way of West Coast. that's not to say that we may struggle in the wilderness for a few years, and as we're rebuilding and we're getting games into some of our younger players and
Right.
some of our older players drop off even further. And maybe we're not a destination club as we once were. There's a lot of talk at the moment on radio and socials around the trade week coming up, starting. I think free agency starts on Friday this week, and then that leads into the trade period. And there's just not a lot of talk about Geelong other than what we're losing, Sava Ratugolea. That could be an interesting one next year, especially. That's the big question mark for me going to next year is if we're sort of accepting that we're losing a Sava, but what if one of our other key defenders gets injured? That is really going to test our depth. I just don't know how we're going to go. And are we going to bring in? Is someone else ready to make the next step to take on that?
Right.
Luckily, we had Zach Guthrie step up last year.
Oh,
is there someone else ready to make a step? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the big question for me.
And that's something, and Zach Guthrie has been such fun to watch, because I didn't start following the game until 2016. And, I have hanging in my classroom the team photo from 2017, a big poster, laminated poster from 2017, and it looks like, looking at his image in that poster, it looks like he still is a couple years away from finishing puberty. Yeah, but he's on a professional football list, and that young man has gone from 27, 2018 having his name written in pencil on the 22 every once in a while to where it's now written in ink, and it's on there every single week, and he has earned that spot, and it's just been so much fun watching him grow into that.
He will likely finish in Geelong's best 10 players. That's my personal opinion. When the club's best and fairest award
on Thursday
night, called the Cardi Groups Medal, on Thursday night, I'm expecting. I did my prediction for the top 10. I had him around about 7 or 8 from memory. I think he's had a terrific year.
Yeah,
and I think the coaches will recognise that. Maybe the rest of the AFL competition doesn't see it necessarily. But I love me some big baby Guthrie. Big baby muscles. He's come a long way.
Yeah.
I would love to get him on the show at some stage. I haven't figured out a way to do that yet, but I'll work on some of the existing contacts that we've got at the club, and I'll see what I can do.
Well,
but he's a big fan favourite of us at the Hoop Show.
Yeah, I actually got in trouble a couple of years ago. Because after the draft in would have been the 21 draft when Nevitt and Cooper White and there's a third player that came in with them as well. I'm drawing a blank on who that was, but I reached out to one of them on Instagram and just said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming on the podcast? It's unique that the three of you are kind of coming out of the same place. You're going to the same club." So they said, "Sure." So the three of them were sitting in the car that belonged to one of the three of them. I spoke to them for half an hour, and I had somebody on, who I'm friends with on.
I remember this.
Yeah, on Twitter reach out to me. They said, "How did you end up talking to them?" I said, "Well, I just reached out to them on Instagram, and they work for the Cats." And they were like, "Oh no, they can't do that. We're gonna have to have a talk with those young men." So I kind of got them in a little bit of trouble when I reached out to them, but I was able to plead ignorance on that. But I've not spoken to that person for a while because they've not been on social media for a while, and I'll send them a note every once in a while, just checking up on them to see how they're doing. But I like I said, I got them into a little bit of hot water for that, but it's but yeah, just and I think I think that I think Nevitt's going to be taking a step next year. I mean, the midfield is going to take its lumps next year, I think, but I think we're going to start to see them grow into their roles a little bit like we saw Zach Guthrie. And as you said, if they're out in the wilderness for a year or two as they're learning the game, is this team going to be playing for a grand final next year? I don't know. I certainly I would love that to be the case. But I think that there's a learning curve that's going to have to take place before that's going to happen.
There's someone that posted an interesting statistic or a pattern, a trend that when Geelong wins a grand final in 2009, and then Collingwood wins it in 2010, and then Geelong wins it again in 2011, and then so they're saying the same thing will happen. Geelong won in 22, Collingwood wins in 23, and then Geelong's due in 2024. If you believe in that sort of stuff, then we're due. Clearly, I don't think it's going to happen though.
Well, you know, and I was going to ask you about that. Do you think that the what on paper theoretically should be an easier draw this year, because they're going to be playing a schedule for a club that was not in the finals? You know, there's a possibility that they may get North Melbourne twice. They may get the Eagles twice this year. They may get some clubs who are still on their ascendancy. Now, those aren't going to be easy games. You know, I think as much as it's going to piss off a lot of Cat supporters, I have this. I've been thinking that I won't be shocked to see Hawthorn back in the 8 next year. I think they're ready to make that jump. I think they're really close to be ready to make that jump, which I know a lot of Cat supporters are going to go, I don't want to hear that. But I think it could happen.
I was just about to say, chances are we'll play Hawthorn twice. We haven't, I don't think we have for a little while now, played them twice in a season. And they're the team that I'm keeping a close eye on. That I think they showed a lot of signs. The ladder won't support it, but where they finish this year, but they are showing a lot of signs that they'll be very competitive. I think they'll be a 3 or 4 win better team next year. So we've got to be on the game and come up against them. Hopefully we get to play them at Cardinia Park. That'd be nice.
Well, we certainly know that Collingwood and Richmond will not make it there. Although Essendon did come there this year, so that's I guess maybe the impossible could be possible. Who knows? But again, that's the one thing as an American fan that I understand it, and I've certainly accepted it, but it's the one thing as an American fan that that you get to play your home game at the other guy's ground, where most of the fans are going to be their fans. That's just thing, if as an NFL fan, I don't know if you follow the NFL at all, but I joked that I said that if the Philadelphia Eagles were going to play a playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Eagles were supposed to be playing at home, and the league went to the Eagles supporters and said, well, yes, it's your home game, but since the Cowboys stadium is bigger, we're going to go play the game there. You're going to get all the gate receipts, but most of the fans are going to be Cowboys fans. There'd be a convoy of Eagles supporters driving to Texas to burn down their stadium to make sure they got to play it in Philadelphia. But and again, I'm not advocating that for the MCG, because I'm hoping to be there next year. I'd like to see it still standing, but it's
the one stadium that in Victoria, in our state of Victoria, the lower part of Australia, that has capacity for 100,000 people.
Right.
The next best is 50,000. So I guess if you're making the NFL comparison, if I'm not sure what stadium capacities are, I'm assuming they're around 50, 60 roughly, maybe the average sort of size stadium.
Yeah, there are some that are around 75 or 80,000 too. Yeah, I mean there are college football stadiums. There are college football stadiums that seat 105, 110,000. Yeah, I mean they're massive. If you had 10 NFL teams playing out of Massachusetts, I don't know, and there was one big stadium in Massachusetts, right.
You would kind of expect the bigger games to be held there. So
right.
I'm frustrated by it, and I think I'm also hopeful that with our new stadium, which is not too far away now, the 40,000 seat capacity, the final stage of our development, which started way back nearly 20 years ago now, that's due for completion soon. So hopefully there may be the possibility of a Geelong versus Hawthorn game with 40,000, well, maybe 39,500 Geelong supporters and 500 Hawthorn supporters.
That would be great.
That would be lovely.
That would be great. Yeah,
cannot wait if that happens.
Yeah,
it will be loud. The foundations better be built strong. I'm telling you now.
Oh, I'm looking. I'm hoping to be there next. I'm hoping to be there next year, and I'm so looking forward to getting to a game there, and hopefully 2 games while I'm there. I'm trying to map. I can't wait till the fixture comes out so I can actually start really planning when I'm going to get the most bang for my buck, because my hope is to try to get 2 games, at least 1, maybe 2 games at GMBHA, hopefully get to a game at Marvel, hopefully get to a game at the MCG, maybe more. And then I'm contemplating making the drive to Adelaide along the southern coast and try to get to a game at the Adelaide Oval. Hopefully, it'd be great if it was the Cats, depending upon how the fixture works out. Or, I don't know, maybe catch it, if they end up playing up at Brisbane or at Gold Coast, catching a flight up that direction, going and catching a game up there, and then who knows, maybe flying home from up there. But yeah, I'm
There's
I've
usually one game at Adelaide, yeah, or
yeah,
just because there's two teams, and
yeah,
same with Perth as well. I'd love to get to Perth Stadium at some stage.
yeah, that looks absolutely gorgeous.
My partner and I have got this dream that we want to spend the whole season just going to all the away games if we can. So we've still got a relatively young family. Well, they're starting their teenage years now, but one day we'd love to just be able to get in the car or book some flights and just go to every single Geelong game for the whole season. All 23 games. That'd be great. If we can make it happen, it'd be fantastic.
So, looking at the the trade period coming up here and free agency coming up here, there, as you said, the club has been a destination club. It's been, we brought in, I've never been there, but the club has brought in the likes of Paddy Dangerfield. They brought in Jeremy Cameron. They brought in Isaac Smith. They brought in, Sean, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, that came in from
Higgins.
Higgins,
Sean
yeah.
Higgins,
Yeah.
we're just
That, that came in, as veteran players, because it seems like Geelong, while it's a big city in the great grand scheme of things, it's almost like a bucolic town when you compare it to Melbourne, and it's off the beaten path, so to speak, and it's kind of a slower lifestyle that it seems like some people embrace, and are you worried about that changing now with the retirement of Joel Selwood and the inevitable soon to be ending of the careers of Tom Hawkins and Mitch Duncan and Paddy Dangerfield coming down the road? And I'm going to ask you here in a moment if you think this is the last year for any one of or a combination of those three.
I think it'll be the last. I'm just looking at the playlist on my second screen at the moment. I think it'll be maybe not Patrick Dangerfield. I think Pat wants to probably play as long as he can. So it depends on his body. If he has a year where he's all beat up and banged up, then he might make a tough call to at the end. He's only just turned 33, so he's relatively young. He's a lot of play. He might sort of be keen to get as close to 400 games as he can. I don't think he'll get there, but Tom Hawkins, I think this will probably be his last year. We did see the first signs in a long time of just a 5% drop off from Tom. And that may have been not helped by the midfield woes that we experienced throughout the year as well. And you can't blame it all on Tom, but just some signs of slowness, and even just getting up off the ground. It seems like a stroke. It feels like me trying to get off the ground. It's like, oh god, it's such an effort. And then there's other players sort of around the Mitch Duncan and you Zach Footy. You can only imagine Zach is probably his last year as well. So
yeah,
there's a few, and my fear is that they all want to retire at the same time, or fate will conspire to force them to retire through injury. So I hope that doesn't happen. But I think I was looking at as I said, I was doing a look ahead to the preview for next year, and just looking at the breakdown of players who've been in the game for 10 or more years. There's well over 10 players in that group. So there's a mass retirement coming.
Yes.
When it hits, is it the end of next year? Is there some to come during preseason this year that maybe they'll wake up one morning and go, I don't want to do it actually? Who knows? But it's definitely coming in the next 24 months. So we'll see what happens.
I think you're right. And that's where the list management group really has to go to work, because they've been able to continually just like reload, if you will, and bring in, when somebody left here or there, they've been able to bring in somebody who was able to fill that void, but they may end up with a lot of voids that they have to fill. And they should say that one more time.
Season 2023 we'll be plugging holes. We'll be applying band-aids to fix gaps. And this was basically the story of 2023, that a player went down and we had to move someone to fill their spot, and it created an issue somewhere else. And this just, to me, it feels like the next 2 years. But to follow up on your previous question around, is Geelong a destination club? I think the reason why a player would come to Geelong now will be different to what they came to us previously. I think previously it was because, okay, Geelong wins premiership. If I come to there, they're at that premiership window still that they can win one in the next year or two. Now it's not so much about. I think players are sort of looking at Geelong, and I'm within the bubble of the Geelong supporters, and even I can say, look, I don't feel like a premiership's a year or two away. I don't feel that. I could be wrong, and I'll put my hand up. And if we win the premiership next year, I'll be gladly be wrong. But I feel like players around the competition are looking at Geelong, not thinking like that's where I'm going to win the premiership for the next 2 years, but looking at Geelong, that's where I might get a game in the next couple of years. So if I'm that type of player that's not getting opportunities at my club, even if I am at a successful club, I might be on the fringe, or I might be playing 10 games a year because I keep getting dropped. Maybe Geelong's the place where I see myself feeling like this. Well,
that's
a or someone like
that's
that.
a great.
That's where I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And looking at the trade period that's coming up, and the club is delisted. Cooper White was delisted, Oscar Riccardi, Sam Simpson, as we talked about off air. You mentioned on September 3rd, boy, I sure hope Sam Simpson doesn't get delisted. And then the next day, he was shown the door, and hopefully, yeah, and hopefully he finds a spot somewhere else. But how do they fill these holes? They have pick 7. That's it. How do they go about filling these holes? Because pick 7 is a prime spot to bring in somebody that could hopefully fill a role for the next decade on the club. But do you need that one player, or do you need to start looking at it and filling in several spots?
Well, what they could. Well, will we try and pick one player with pick 7, or will we split the pick? Would you be surprised if Geelong manufactured something that we gave up our 7th pick and we ended up getting picks 18 and 20 for that 7th pick?
Yeah,
I'm thinking on the run, but I'm just saying, like, maybe that's what the approach that Geelong takes. Or the other alternative, which I feel is the same way Geelong's done things the last 5 years, which has been very successful, is we trade the pick and we get someone to win a premiership now. And you mortgage the future a little bit. Risk. I think we're in a bigger hole if we do that. I think.
Yeah, I think
the club's been very great at building on the run, and yeah.
Yeah, and that gets into that whole the destination thing. Are they going to be able to attract people here? And who would be worthy of pick 7 to bring in? Now I don't know if you've seen the stories that have kind of broken over this kind of happened this morning here. So last night in Australia that there are rumblings about Clayton Oliver with Melbourne possibly being on the way out, that Melbourne's not real keen on some of the things that he has done over these last few weeks before, when he did not come back into the side. Now, I'm not saying pick 7 would get Clayton Oliver. I'm not saying that at all, but that, you plug Clayton Oliver into that midfield with Dangerfield, with a healthy Cam Guthrie, you're keeping your fingers crossed that maybe you get something back for Radaglia and that Jack Henry's foot stays healthy, and Hawkins is healthy one more time. You might be playing that last weekend in September again next year if you're able to pull something. And I'm not saying that's happening, but I was really surprised to see his name even coming up in suggestions that he could be on the move.
It's an interesting one for me, and I think about it in a few different ways. One is that the first way I think about it is I think the people on the radio and journalists want something to talk about. So I don't know whether there's much substance behind this rumor.
Right.
Look, I don't completely rule it out as a ridiculous idea. He's on a reasonably long contract, and Melbourne might be looking at themselves like Geelong's looking at themselves at the moment, thinking, are we still thereabouts? I think in Melbourne's case, yes, they are. They might just make a few changes and be back again. It has been 2 or 3 years since they won their last premiership, when they go around next season. But maybe they're still in that window where they can still contend. I think someone like Clayton Oliver, what is he, about 10 years into his career now? He might have 4 good years left.
Yeah.
You weigh that up versus an untried seventh pick who might turn out to be Clayton Oliver level, or he might turn out to play one game of AFL and be done. To me, I don't think Geelong should take the risk on something like that. I think on someone like a Clayton Oliver, I think he'd be an instant fix for us because we need an inside mid to. It'd be a perfect solution for next year. But I don't know if necessarily it's just adding another person to that group of 10-year players, which I think we need to be adding where possible. The 3 to 7 year players. That's really what we need at the moment. That's where we're shortest on.
So,
but you know, do you say no to someone like Clayton Oliver? I don't know. That's
right. And again, and I have, as you said, it could simply be, the trade talk stuff just for something to talk about, and somebody looking at it going, they both seem to be rather disgruntled with one another. Maybe we should go ahead and talk about this. Maybe there's some fire with this smoke that we're going to create here. We're going to wag the dog, as they say. But looking at the trade period, do you think it is an absolutely foregone conclusion that Radaglia is going to be wearing a different jumper next year?
100% it will be. There's a lot of just talk, and it happens every year where pubs will say we're not trading him, we're not giving up this, we're not giving up that. In the end, it just happens. It happens with every big name that gets floated around. David Radaglia is a good player, but he's not a Gary Ablett Jr. or anything like
right,
that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
he'll go. You go.
If he does go, and let's say that they decide not to trade him, he would then go back into the draft where anybody could pick him up then, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I don't think that'll happen. I think Geelong will want to take something out of it.
They want to get something back for him on the trade, right?
Yeah, so it'll probably be one of those ones that doesn't get done early. It'll drag out for a few days. Eventually it gets done. Hopefully both parties can walk away saving some face and being reasonably, walk away saying that we won the trade. I think if anything, Port Adelaide wins the trade, but Geelong wants to get something out of it. We're not going to get a first round draft pick. I think Geelong's being silly asking for that, but that's the art of negotiation, isn't it? You start high and then you just come down from there, and that's the way it works. So we might get a future pick somewhere along the line. There might be some other trades that happen with Port Adelaide. They're going to be very, very active this trade period, so they might be able to come up with some more picks and package something up for us. I'd like to get a couple of picks out of it because I think the one draft pick 7 really not going to cut it, and who knows whether we still have that by the time the draft comes around.
Right. And and I've heard rumblings that the Hawks may be getting into the discussion. Supposedly the Hawks have offered him a significant contract, they've got picks 3, 30, and 49. Now we're not getting pick 3 for Esava Radaglia. Now maybe we get,
but we won't get it.
maybe we get pick 3 for Esava Radaglia and pick 7. Maybe. And then we turn around and flip that pick 3 and break that down even more. I mean, that could be something that could happen. Where you go ahead and
I'm following you there. I think you could turn that if and there's a lot of things that have to play out for that to happen, and lots of different moments. Sliding doors moments. But if we had that pick 3, I would much prefer to turn that into a couple of picks in the 10 to 20 range.
Yeah, I mean,
split the difference there.
Melbourne has 5 and 13. That probably would not be enough of a drop back, but Sydney has 11 and 23. The Bulldogs have 10 and 17. So there, maybe we could both get new jobs.
Maybe.
Yeah, I could
give Andrew Mackey a call.
Yeah,
we'll try and get Andrew. We'll try and get Andrew Mackey on the show at some stage as well. And I'll have a chat to Steve Hocking to see if we can get the line to Andrew Mackey, and we'll try and get along to trade week this week. But I think it'd be nice to be at it. I think splitting the picks, getting. I'm not a big believer. Maybe it's coming through on my tone, but I'm not a massive believer in throwing all your chips in on one player in the draft that hasn't played a single AFL game. I much prefer to take a chance on someone who's been proven, and and Geelong's going to take a different approach. A different approach from what we've taken the last 5 years, where we've constantly been topping up because we've been in that window of a chance for a premiership. It's going to take a different approach, similar to the early noughties when we were building that premiership side. I think maybe it's a combination of the two, but we've got good people at the club. Our club is fantastic at draft week and in the trade period. We're going to do okay. I have full faith in them. But and you're talking to someone who's just a passionate Geelong supporter. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just think, my heart tells me that we're not contending, and I think we need an approach that builds for the future.
Yeah.
Because
I was going to
keep the current players happy.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that as things sit right now, and again, we don't know what's going to happen during the trade period because that's coming along here soon. But do you think that this club is going to play finals next year? Do you think they've pushed their way back into the 8?
I think yes. Yeah. Well, the time I do my review in March, I might have a different opinion. But as it sits right now, I think our best case scenario is we finished around 5 or 6 on the ladder.
Okay.
I think we'll probably end up in a range of 5 to 10. Probably where we'll end up.
Okay.
Now, I'd reserve the right to change my mind once I see the fixture and see what plays out during the trade period and draft and so forth. But and then any major injuries during pre-season and all that sort of stuff that goes on. But as it sits now, I think Geelong should be aiming for a finish in the finals. Probably not top 4. I mean, they'd want to, clearly. Definitely not top 2. But yeah, somewhere around that mark. So
I'm trying to, and I guess I don't really know the answer to this, but does the fixture get released in December, or do they wait until January for that?
I believe it's, I don't know the exact date, but I did do a Google search the other day to see when the 2023 fixture got released, and I believe it was the first half of December.
Okay.
It's a nice little Christmas present for everyone that loves fixtures and figuring out where they're going to be playing and what interstate trips they're making and all that.
Or international trips, as the case may be. Because
international trips.
Yeah, because that is like I said, I worked all summer at this summer job and have taken on a couple new roles at school to put aside, a tidy sum of money to go on this trip. And of course I've joked, I've had, many people have said, well, if you ever make the trip over, you got a place to stay and I want to take you to a game and that sort of thing. Well, guess what? I'm going to probably be trying to take them up on that here in the very near future. And they're going to go, well, I never thought you were actually going to come, but hopefully that's not the case, but hopefully that doesn't end up being the case.
I'm sure.
But, yeah.
I'm sure it won't be.
Yeah.
I was going to say before, would you be interested in commentating a game in Australia if that was somehow possible? I know of other countries that have had people come over, and the AFL has been more than welcome to allocate them a spot, or maybe even a BFL level or something like that.
I would love to do something like that, but and because one of the other things that I want to do while I'm there is I want to go visit local footy clubs. Because I start out every episode giving a shout out to a local club and try to find a unique story that's taken place with them, because it helps me kind of learn, the geography of the game throughout the country. And I can go back and look at the history of some of these clubs. And, I discovered the one that, where Dusty Martin, cut his teeth and grew into the player that he became, and where he played his younger days and that sort of thing. And it's just neat seeing those stories and then, sharing with the clubs, that, hey, I did give your club a shout out. And quite frankly, to me, it's a really inexpensive way to advertise the podcast, because then they'll share it out on their socials and such. So it hopefully gets it to grow that way a little bit, I had somebody mention to me about a club that plays, the episodes can be coming out here right before this one, a club that plays down in Tasmania, that they play all their games on a gravel field. Yeah. They're on the eastern coast of think on the eastern coast of Tasmania, that they actually play on western coast of Tasmania. It's near like a big, like a mine, and their field that they played on for over a century is gravel. Yes,
No
they play.
padding, nothing.
They play on a rock
That would be-
field. Yes, it is. And I had seen this before, but I had not mentioned that club as one of the clubs of the episodes before. But it's. I mean, you are already a very tough person playing this game to begin with, but then playing it on rocks is mind-boggling that somebody's doing that. It's just yeah.
Up in the Northern Territory, in the north of Australia, they play. Well, there's not a lot of grass that grows. It's very hot up there, and a lot of the locals play on basically dirt patches, really, and with not a lot of them are wearing shoes.
Right.
Kicking is big. I don't know if you ever kicked a football with barefoot before, but it hurts. I'm telling you, it hurts.
Yes.
And I'm amazed that they do that, and then a lot of the Aboriginal kids do that, and then they come to Victoria and they're putting shoes on, and it's a bit of a different experience. I mean, the high levels, I think they're wearing shoes, but at the very local levels, it's just, it's interesting on that one. Just, hearing that they're playing on gravel is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is
Tasmania.
So before we wrap up here, if you were to, first of all, it would be wonderful to find another Jack Bowes deal this year, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anybody's in that kind of a predicament. I guess in a way you could say Melbourne is kind of in that predicament with Brodie Grundy trying to move him on, but I don't think we're wanting to invest that kind of capital into that position, because I think we're pretty happy with who's coming along in the pipeline behind Reece Stanley, and that may be coming sooner rather than later anyway. Because it was nice to as you mentioned in that last episode that you had done. Even though we didn't win that game against the Bulldogs, we got to see a glimpse of what the future might look like, with Mullen and Clohessy. And it would have been great to see Jai Clark back out there healthy, just to see, okay, 2027, this is what it's going to look like out here. And these kids are going to have filled in. They're going to have gone through the process that Zach Guthrie's gone through. And we're going to go, we can compete with these kids. We can compete with these young men. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch this then. And,
I think one name you didn't mention was Toby Conway. The big chili, as they call him. I will be prepared for you to timestamp this comment. He will be a captain of the Geelong Football Club for the next 10 years. He has everything going. All the talk at the Geelong is that they rate him incredibly highly. He has a gravitas about him. He pulls players in, and he works hard. He's just the right kind of kid, and it's just a shame we've only seen him for one game. But mark my words, he will be the captain of Geelong.
I love hearing that. And when you've got that kind of size, people are going to listen, because you can just kind of lean in over them and just and get their attention. Yeah, I mean, it's you're not
He just needs a good preseason, and he'll play 10 or 12. 15 games next year, and then probably that'll be the end of Reece Stanley after that, and then it'll be Toby Conway all the way from 2025.
Yeah, and I have to remind myself that I'm getting older as this is going on, but I'm really enjoying the journey, because I've I don't know if you follow the NFL at all, but I've the team that I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, and they won a championship in 1964. I was a year old. Nothing since then. So it has a little bit of a Melbourne Demons theme to it, because that was when they had last won. But they were dominant back in the 1940s and 50s. But and then they won one in 64. But it's been nothing since then. And we're kind of the laughing stock.
I know basketball's not your thing, but you've had LeBron James, so you're not.
That's true. That's true. And the Cleveland baseball team got close several times. The Cavs were in the finals like 4 years in a row. But I'm a bigger Browns fan than either of those clubs, and they seemingly cannot get out of their way. And it's so that's why one of the reasons why, again, people said, well, you're going to be a front runner choosing to support the Cats, and I'm thinking, well, okay, but I'm I've been beaten down so often by the team here that I do support that I don't mind, you know, looking at a club that's going to be uber successful, you know, because I mean, when I narrowed it down to the final three clubs before I decided which club I was going to support, it was the Cats, it was the Magpies, and it was the Lions. Those are the three that I narrowed it down to, because I saw the Lions beginning to, you know, at that point in time, starting to, you know, and again, they were just early on in Chris Fagan's tenure. So they were, you know, they hadn't really figured things out as well yet either. But it was, you know, this guy right here on this button that's right by my finger right here, who's with the Lions, at least for the coming days. He's probably going to get delisted. Nakaya Kakatu, he's the guy that pushed me into the corner to becoming a Cat supporter. There was a game he played against Carleton that I was just fascinated by watching him play, and I thought, you know, that's who I want to support. And now he can't get a game with Brisbane, and that's a young man that if his body had just held up, I think he could have been a really, really good player. You know, he just had so many little injuries here and there.
Yeah. There's always stories like that with every club, and there's a player or two. I mean,
yep.
Over the journey, unfortunately that's the way it goes. I'm not an NFL major. I'm a casual fan. I would say I'm probably a Packers fan, maybe Patriots, only because I spent time in. I said Massachusetts before. I spent some time as a young fellow living there for about a month or so.
Okay.
Went to a game, but probably my heart's with in the NBA. I've got a Golden State. Hang on. I'm a big Steph Curry man, so yeah, got the Golden State jersey, which I haven't hung up yet. It'll go on the wall at some point.
There you go.
Yeah, that's probably where things are at.
There you go. But yeah, so what is going to be the what's going to be the headline for the Cats going into 2024? If you're writing the headline for it's the Geelong Advertiser, isn't it? Is that the name of the paper?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So if they come to you and say you're writing the headline for the paper for the Cats for this year, as the calendar year turns into the beginning of 2024 for the Cats, what's the headline in the paper say regarding the Cats?
Injury curse strikes again.
At the start of the year? Oh no.
I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I'm all doom and gloom at the moment. The whole year has just been injury after injury, and the last thing I want to hear is that we have players do a knee injury or some kind of really bad hamstring at training or something like that, or we get in trouble with the law, or we have to discipline someone. So,
well,
knock on wood. Exactly.
Well, fortunately, I would think though that I guess I have in the years that I've been following, I've not heard a single Geelong player who has found themselves getting onto the wrong side of law enforcement. I've not, unless I've missed it. I've not heard. I've heard, when they were in the hubs and such, Shy Bolton getting into a little bit of hot water and, other things happening. I'm not going to mention one of his teammates because, he's having some issues and has had some problems. I'm not going to mention that, but, that has gone on as well. But,
oh, look, I can go. There's a few Geelong players. I won't name them, but anyone who's followed Geelong since 2007 or earlier will know that there's an incident at a hotel pub drinking hotspot in Torquay where someone tried to climb the wall and hurt their ankle. And then we had one of our a player that got involved with some cocaine, a few other things.
Okay.
A while ago. So that was years and years ago. But we've had a pretty clean sheet for a while. So
yeah,
I think even Joel Selwood might have had a speeding ticket at one point. So, but Geelong is a small town, and you don't want to get. I think that's probably one reason why you don't want to get in trouble, because it'll be all over the newspaper front page if you get a speeding ticket.
Yeah,
fairly something relatively.
Yep.
Tickets are clearly a serious thing.
Okay.
But someone, we're pretty good. I just think, is it going to be the doom and gloom preseason? I don't know. I hope not. Hopefully, I haven't ended the show on a really bad note.
That's okay.
Maybe bring a bit more life and energy into
That's okay. So, who are you?
The doom and gloom headline.
Knowing who is on the list right now, because we don't know what's going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. But who are you the most excited about seeing in 2024?
I think Tanner Bruin showed a lot of signs at the back half of last season, just gone,
Okay.
I think he really looked like he was struggling to find his way inside to start the year, and then around about that halfway mark, it just clicked, and I'm surprised he's so young still. I think he's coming into his fourth or fifth year now, and I think we're ready to see the makings of one of the next great AFL players. I think he's going to really take that step into probably the top 30, top 20 players in the game. Maybe not next year, but I think his trajectory is looking really positive. So I'm very excited about him, and I can't wait. I cannot wait to see the debut of Phoenix Foster. I want to see Phoenix Foster. He's got a bit of a cult following at Geelong at the moment. He was nice enough to come on our show, and there's lots of people that love this guy, and he can't understand it. Neither can I really. He's just got this. He's just a really nice kid, and everyone just, I don't know, we've just fallen in love with him. We want to see him play his first game. So hopefully that's not too far away.
Well, it looks like he's got, he's the same height as Tom Hawkins, but he's got to put on, he's still about 14 or 15 kilos lighter than Tom Hawkins. So he's going to need to fill out a little bit, or, there's going to, Stephen May or, Darcy Moore is going to hip check him across the goal square, and he'll be picking him out of the front row if there. So he's going to have to get a little bit, probably a little bit stronger there. But again, I don't know much about him, but I'm going to trust your judgment on that, because, you are so tuned into the club there. So Ben, where can people find your show, and where can people find your work?
A couple of places. The most easiest place to find me on socials is Twitter. I'm all over Twitter, probably too much, probably annoying everyone, but at The Hoop Show on Twitter. We're on Instagram as well, and a few of the other ones. But if you want to tune into some of the visual content that we're putting out there, it's The Hoop Show on YouTube. You could just be able to search for that these days. We've put out about 350 videos now, so I think YouTube recognises who we are when you type in The Hoop Show.
Yep.
And yeah, look, as you mentioned before, we do some interviews with people connected to the club, people connected to the AFL industry, people like yourself, and you were kind enough to come on, and your video is doing really well. Every now and I check it, and it's like, another couple of people have watched your video. So I think you were the first or the second person to come on that interview series, and we're now up to about 40 interviews, and the most recent one is we had the CEO of Geelong on there. So
yes.
So we are probably looking at focusing in on some really big names next year, and I'm always reluctant to sort of say who they are until we record those shows. But that's a really good one, and that might sustain people over the summer, or Australian summer at least. Anyway, we've had a lot of Geelong footy on TV. Some of those roughly hour-long interviews if you're driving somewhere, or you're at the gym or whatever. Put one of those shows on, and they're always good fun.
So let me ask you this question. Would you suggest that, because my international membership that I have, has no access to tickets or anything of that nature, because I'm not there. But if I'm coming next year, is it going to be in my best interest to get a different type of membership as well, so I can probably get tickets, or will I be able to find them elsewhere once I come there?
I think I would have conversations with the club.
Okay.
I think Geelong's very good at welcoming people to games, and the club, and even big games, really. They'll always try and accommodate people that maybe are from overseas or interstate, or tourists and things like that. If you get in early, you say, look, I'm from America, I'm traveling over here, I'd love to get to a game, and I think they'll try and make it work for you. Look, it's a 40,000 seat stadium at Geelong. It's very likely to get a seat now, but yeah, if you came this year, you wouldn't have had a chance. Even I live 5 minutes away, and I can't even get a seat half the time with a membership. So
wow.
So hopefully it's going to be a little bit easier next year.
Okay, well, yeah, because like I said, I'm hoping to get there, and I'm hoping to see at least 4 or 5 games at different parks while I'm there next year. That's in an ideal situation. That's what I'd love to do.
Their club is extremely accessible, and they will bend over backwards to support to help people like yourself. That it's not easy to get to games. They make it very easy for people that do find it hard to get to games, whether you've got a physical disability or something else, or you're not from the area.
And again, I'm definitely. I'm going to be reaching out and going through the proper channels and try to make connections with a few people as well, as opposed to just reaching out to them on Instagram and getting them into trouble as well. But although, you know,
What we do.
yeah, I mean, it was, yeah. And there was nothing, you know, they didn't say anything that was malicious or anything like that, but it just was, I got them in a little bit of hot water there. So, I appreciate your time this morning, man. And I can't wait until 2024 to get started, because like I said, I'm hoping to, like I said, spend 3 to 4 weeks in Australia next summer, our summer. And I'm just so looking forward to learning, you know, more about the country, seeing it in person, and actually talking to many of the people that I engage with, even if they are supporters of other clubs. And a lot of them are. I do talk to lots of supporters from other clubs. I've got plenty of them that have said they want to, you know, take me to, you know, Club X, Club Y, Club Z, you know, and trust me, I'll go watch anybody play. I mean, I just want to be able to go to the MCG and just look around and, you know, walk around the stadium and hopefully, you know, before I go there, make connections to where I can maybe even get the chance to sit down and talk to some people as well. You know, because I plan on bringing my, you know, some of my, you know, my portable recording equipment with me there to actually do some, hopefully face-to-face discussions with people, whether they be players or people that are working for the clubs or just supporters of the clubs. You know, so I'm not sure how I go about getting a press pass, but I'm going to start working towards that thing. And I'm thinking, you know, as you've done, you know, you've got 350 episodes of your show. I'm at like this is like 343 for me. You know, I'm closing it on 350 as well. So it's you know, we're both doing our darndest to promote this game that you've grown up loving and that I've fallen in love with late in life. And I'm trying to bring a whole new fandom into the game, because, you know, because we when it comes to sports, we're a cash cow here, you know, and I've always argued that if we can figure out how to get 1% of the American people interested in footy, the AFL would not know what to do with all the money they would be bringing in. I don't think they'd be, I mean, that's 10% of Australia's population. If we get 1% of us, I think, you know,
they probably need to schedule a game at 11 o'clock Australian time, which I'm not sure what prime time is for you over there, prime viewing time. But well, I think trying to watch games at 2 or 3 in the morning in these states, it's not really going to.
No, that's true. But I've argued that they should, if at least they should, you know, advertise that the games are on, because the Fox Sports channels are doing a decent job of showing the games, but there's never any advertising. Like you see the crawls on the bottom of the channels that you're watching that say that, you know, watch the Grand Prix or the motocross or whatever event's coming on. It's going to be on, you know, Fox whatever channel, Fox Racing channel at 4 p.m. or whatever. We don't get that sort of thing here at all. The games just show up at 2 o'clock in the morning or at 5:50 in the morning and that sort of thing. If they could just at least say that they're on, so people could set the DVR, set the recorder on their television network so they could go back and watch it at a later time. I think it would be great if they could do that. Now on the West Coast, it's a little easier to do because sometimes a lot of the games, you know, the games will be coming on at sometimes like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So the games that are, you know, like, you know, the 2 o'clock games are coming on at 11 p.m. You know, if you get a game that starts at say noon, that's like a 9 p.m. the previous evening thing on the West Coast. It's midnight here, but you know, there's a lot of people that are interested in the game out there.
Yeah, look, it's something I wouldn't rule out in years to come. I think of an earlier start, a one game per round that maybe starts at 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
Australian time. Well, I'm talking about Eastern Standard Time in Australia,
right.
Or at 11 o'clock. I mean, they're starting to show a few AFLW games at 11 a.m. It's probably too early for most people, but at 12 o'clock start, I think it's got some potential there, especially for the US market.
Yep.
I'm not sure about China and so forth, whether there's an interest there, but there's definitely every time you speak to someone from the States that say they've seen a game with Aussie rules, they say, "Why haven't I not seen this before? This is fantastic." I've never actually spoken to anyone that's seen a game and goes, "Meh." They fall in love with it straight away. So it's odd that it just hasn't taken off any more than it has.
In a recent episode, though, Mick Aussie and I were talking about. I did say that I was hoping that I was hoping that no Americans tuned in to watch for the first time to watch the last 8 minutes of the Collingwood and Giants game a couple of weeks ago, because there was absolutely no movement, and they would have, you'd just been watching, ball up, tackle, ball up, tackle, ball up, and like, what the heck is this? Why is this exciting or interesting? But well, you have to watch the first 2.5 hours that led to this. So hopefully nobody tuned in at that point in time.
Or watch the bounce of the grand final where they bounced it and then started it again. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't bounce it right.
That's
Why did he bounce it? I don't know.
okay, last thing, should they just get rid of the bounce and just toss up from now on?
I think yes, they should get rid of the bounce. It's probably one of those traditions that I'm not that wedded to at all.
Yeah,
there's other traditions, and I'm more of a kind of supporter that is happy to look at making change where it would improve the game. I'm not fixed on how the game was played in 1940 necessarily, but I think the bounce is one that's easy for me to part ways with. I just throw it up
and I had seen something. I'd seen something not long ago where they, when they were actually doing a ball up out all over the ground, that they were where I saw images where they were actually bouncing the ball like off on the wing and that sort of thing, which I didn't realize they were even doing that. And that was until fairly recently that they were still doing that.
Yeah. It's just they've got rid of that. It just seems to be after a goal now that it gets bounced up. And even then, half the time they get it wrong, and it means some of it's probably more the umpires that can't do it. And it's a skill. I can't do it. I wouldn't know. I don't know if you've ever tried to go out into a backyard somewhere and bounce football.
I've tried to go out and just kind of like, as you would be running along and trying to bounce it to get it to come back to me. I don't know how people do that, because I've never had it go. I've had it go sideways. Never had it come anywhere close to coming back to me. But again, I'm not coordinated at all.
Get your football, find a hallway in your house, and try and kick the ball into one of the doors. Just bend. You know how they do that little banana kick? They little bend it along the ground.
Yeah.
Practice that. I used to practice that one as a kid all the time. That was good fun. Driving my parents crazy, but that's fine.
Well, I could do that at our football field with the soccer goals. I could go try that there. That would be yeah. Just have people looking at me more strangely than they do. Well, Ben, I want to thank you for your time this morning, sir. This has been a lot of fun. I think that next year is going to, it may be a tough transition year, as you were alluding to, but I think that to borrow a line from the guys from Talking Hawks, and I hate to borrow a line from a Hawthorne podcast, but when I spoke to them a couple of years ago, they were looking for what they call green shoots. And I think if we see some green shoots from some of these youngsters making the next step forward, ready to fill in behind the players who are about to end their careers, I think that's something we can certainly look forward to. And while we may make finals next year, I think if we see progressions, even if we end up at 9 or 10, as you said, you saw us being 5 to 10. I think if we make progressions and things look good, we might be able to still look at 9 and 10 and go, I can live with that, because 2025 is going to be pretty darned okay.
I think so. I think we can turn things around quickly. You can just as quickly fall off the cliff like we did this year as well. So no one would have predicted 10th finish or whatever.
No. And I, again, for those of you who don't listen to my podcast often, I do have to admit that I did not even have Collingwood in my top 8 this year, and I have taken. I've given myself all kinds of grief for that, so you don't have to do it. But I also didn't have Freo in the top 8 either. So, and I just, I think GWS is going to be a top 4 side next year. I really do.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
completely agree.
I mean, they're coming in. They've got looking at their picks before we go. They've got picks. They got 6 and 15, so they've got 2 first rounders coming this next year. They got Richmond's first round pick. So I don't know how Gold Coast uses up all the picks they have. They've got like 10 picks, but I know they've got a lot of academy kids they're gonna have to trade up and try to find spots for.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but I think watch the trade period though. That'll probably give you the best guide as to teams that are going to come good next year. And it might be Port Adelaide, it might be GWS. Could be Collingwood again, going all the way. Who knows? They've still got a reasonably good age profile there. So
same with Brisbane. And if if the Blues can get out of their own way late in the season, maybe it'll end up being them as well. But hey, Ben, I appreciate you coming on. My guest has been Ben Reeve from the Hoops Show on YouTube, and you can find them on. What is your Twitter tag? You mentioned you're on Twitter, so where can people follow you there?
Yeah, it's just at the Hoops Show.
Okay.
I think that's it. Yeah, it's just at the Hoops Show. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it's a little blue logo thing.
All righty. Well, hey, Ben, have a fantastic Wednesday and enjoy the warming weather. I hope the rain stops for you today and get outside and do something fun. And yeah,
go get a fresh coffee. Thanks for having me on. I love talking about cats. Let's do it again sometime.
You bet. Cheers.
All right, Ben. Hey, I do appreciate you taking time out of your morning to sit down and chat with me, man. Absolutely loved it. Love the decor in your recording room as well. I think you said you were in your garage, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully by the time this gets released, we'll have found out whether or not the Cats have blinked and have actually picked up something for Esava Radigalia, because it sounds like the discussion is still going on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, look out for one another. Check up on your friends. I did listen to the latest episode of Ricky Nixon's Chicken Coop podcast this morning, and he had a great discussion with a gentleman who is involved with a push called Talktober, and encouraging people to to talk to one another if they need to, if they have any issues that they need to discuss, if it's a mental health kind of thing, that sort of thing. And I certainly encourage people to do that. I know I certainly at times need to do that with people, so I do try to reach out where I can. But check up on your friends. And if you need to talk to somebody, please reach out. You can look in the show notes for every episode of my podcast. You're going to find all that information in the show notes, those numbers in Australia as well as in the United States. So you can talk to somebody if you need to speak to them. So, folks, remember, you can find everything related to my podcast over at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. You'll find links to all my socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Yank_on Twitter. I do hope you'll consider getting on the mailing list. I hope you'll share the episode with your friends and family. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. That would be a huge help. It's been amazing. And again, very small podcast on YouTube, okay? But the amount of feedback that I've received recently on on YouTube has been tremendous. Yeah, and I'm just a very small fish in a huge pond. But considering about 3 months ago, I think I had 25 subscribers, and I've now gotten close to 170 at this point in time. Yes, I know 170 is not a lot, but for a show who's not spent a lot of time on YouTube and is trying to get caught up over there, I do appreciate all of you who have been checking out the show. I do hope you'll check out the podcast as well. I head over to my website. Again, if you want to help out the show, you can certainly do that. That Buy Me a Coffee page. You can click on my Redbubble store page as well. As many of you know, my plan is next year to spend 3.5 to 4 weeks in Australia during footy season. I cannot wait for the fixture to come out so I can actually sit down and start figuring out where can I go, how can I get the most bang for my buck. But as I'd mentioned, I think I have my airfare taken care of, and some other money as well. But I know several people that said, "Hey, if you come, want to take you to a game, I'm probably going to take you up on that." So I've been thinking about trying to make the drive from Geelong or Melbourne over to Adelaide to see a game at the Adelaide Oval. But then I've also been thinking that it might be really interesting to take the ferry down to Tasmania and possibly catch a game either the stadiums down in Tasmania as well. And I know Tasmania is a big island, so that would take some travel as well. But I just think, getting out on the ocean again, having lived on an aircraft carrier for almost 2 years of my life, would kind of be neat to do that again. I mean, I swore off with my family. I said I would never go on a cruise in my life. And back in 2015, we got the opportunity to go on a cruise to Alaska. And again, that had been almost 30 years since I'd been in the military, and I truly enjoyed it. Okay, we didn't have snails to eat on an aircraft carrier. We had the dreaded breaded triangle fish, though. So, folks, remember, you can find everything about the podcast at my website, ayankonthefooty.com. I hope you'll check it out. Reach out. If you got any questions, shoot me an email, ayankonthefooty@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Love the comments on YouTube. I'm trying to respond to as many of them as I possibly can. If you've got questions, by all means, shoot me an email. Shoot me a note over on one of my socials. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, everybody, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. Cheers, everyone.